Hey man,
How are you?
good. How's it going over there?
Good, good. Busy day. Very busy day. I had some stuff running I'm running Basecamp 3 locally and trying to do some work, and some stuff was messed up, and there were some caching issues and a CDN issue, and I got like stuck for a few hours, and then finally got it fixed. Then I had some merge conflicts. It's one of those kind of days. There's
Yeah,
stuff. Stuff going on. You're trying to do stuff and you kind of can't and get stuck, and anyway.
yeah. You had um you had brought up an interesting topic that we didn't talk about yesterday, which was like about complexity. Do you want to talk about that at all? I mean, we also talked about doing, sharing some of the work we've been working on, which I happy to do that too. But it's an interesting topic you had brought up about when do you know if it's getting too complicated or you're adding too much complexity.
Oh, yeah, I think kind of what I was maybe again, I'm trying to remember last night's conversation is getting back to um I don't think you know. I just don't think you actually know sometimes until you ship something.
Yeah,
And that's kind of where we closed the conversation around like you don't know. You can beta test with a handful of people, you can do a bunch of stuff, you can ask questions, you can have a gut feel. You just don't ever really know until you ship. So I think that's the only truth you're ever going to find.
yeah. And because like, we it's a constant problem on my mind too. And I feel like the answer is usually just if it's on your mind, if it's something that you keep asking, like, is this thing adding too much complexity? That's a good thing. That's like the filter that you need. But it's like it's constantly on my mind. Like, we're doing all this stuff in Highrise where like we're adding, you know, and it doesn't just come from some whim. Like it's like, we're adding bulk email and we're adding a group inbox feature. So, the team can see what client communication hasn't been replied to yet, or the contact communication hasn't been replied to yet. And it's really important to us. And it comes from talking with a lot of users, and it comes from, pains we have. But of course, there are extra features, there are extra links, there are extra tabs. So it does like, it does weigh on my mind. Like, when is there a breaking point? Is there a line where it's just like, we shouldn't cross this thing? Like, we shouldn't add this thing. Like bulk email is a good one where it's just like, now we're getting into a game of something that people also use things like MailChimp for, and Constant Contact and Infusionsoft and all these other tools. And it's like, yeah, when is it like, what, we should just let it be that other tool's responsibility? And I don't know if we know, but it's like, when I look at like how people use the product, it's like that's like a natural thing they also use it with. It's like this thing that they're constantly moving back to. And so it feels very natural to pull this like extra kind of ability that we don't have yet into the tool. But yeah, it does make me worried, like when it's becoming too complicated.
Yeah, I do think that it's kind of interesting because sometimes like your instincts are let's simplify, 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 right? And then by doing that, sometimes you throw away the things that actually matter. It's like it's not about simple or complicated, I don't think really so much. It's more about clear, because a product can do a lot of different things, which would technically make it complicated, and then it can do. I mean, actually, no, it shouldn't technically make it complicated. That's even the wrong word to use when something does a lot of things, because a lot of things can do a lot of things and they're not complicated. A hammer can do a lot of things and they're not complicated.
Right.
But it's kind of clear how you use a hammer. You got a big old handle. It's got this affordance that you grab onto this thing and you have leverage and you can smash things. You can pull nails out. You can do a bunch. You can bend things. You can do a bunch of stuff with it. Does that make it complicated? No, it doesn't. So it's about like how clear can you make something even if it does a lot of things. That I think is the ultimate goal. So like even if, like, for example, Basecamp 3 we're building can do more things than it's ever done before, hopefully we're making those things clear and straightforward
Right.
enough that the added sort of mental heaviness of, wow, this can do a lot of things, doesn't make it feel complicated. It actually makes it feel simple and powerful. Like or clear and powerful. That's actually the real sort of sweet spot if you can hit that, I think.
Yeah. And it's like, I feel like another really good example of who has gotten this right, or some of the people doing is, and Apple's a good design example of this, I think, where like a remote control, like I've got a universal remote control that is like insane. It's got like, I give it to somebody who visits my house and like, it's so complicated. No one can figure out how to operate our TV because it's all runs from this insane remote control with like a million buttons. But like you give someone an Apple remote to an Apple TV or whatever, and it's got like 4 buttons. I think maybe the new one has like 5 total buttons. And like all they've like moved the complexity. Like the Apple TV is still a complex product. There's a lot of things you can choose, titles you can choose, and games you can play, and apps you can install now. But they've moved some of the complexity to the better place. Like it doesn't make sense on a tiny little remote to figure this shit out, but they've like moved this stuff to make it more clear. Like you can now operate basically the same functions that a lot of people are trying to jam onto a remote, but it's now on the screen, right? Like it's got the little trackpad to like, find the stuff on the screen and the screen is bigger and you can read more stuff, and it makes it like you're saying, like more clear. So you're right. Like, I mean, it's like finding these things that could make it complicated and make it more complex, but if you can communicate it and find the correct way to kind of deliver the same information, that's the right goal. Yeah.
There's a post I wrote up. I'm looking it up right now to make sure I have the words right. Right. So I wrote this post. I'll post it up on Medium actually afterwards, about this idea, the idea of the obvious, the easy, and the possible, and that in a product, things can take on a variety of sort of senses of, I don't know, senses of urgency or something. Like you can have a product do a lot of things, like you're kind of referring to the Apple remote. You can have a product do a lot of things. Some of those things have to be obvious. Like if certain things aren't obvious, it falls down. Some things don't need to be obvious, but they need to be possible. Or easy, I'm sorry. Some things don't need to be obvious, but at least they need to be easy enough to get to and to work. And then some things simply just need to be possible. And they can be pushed back and they can be pushed down and they can be hidden behind this and hidden behind that. But as long as they're still possible, then it's okay. So it's like there's this hierarchy of, it's kind of like the hierarchy of needs basically, but it's sort of in product design. I think that's kind of the key, is to say like, okay, this product is a lot of things. What needs to be obvious?
You still there? Damn it. Come on, YouTube. Come on, Google. Can you hear me? Come on, Hangout. Am I being recorded still? Jason? Well, am I here by myself? I can show some work. We're gonna have to figure out how to like share work on Blab. Let me message Jason. I don't even know how to like reboot my Hangout. All right, I see Jason dropped off. Maybe he's gonna come back in. Anyways, when he comes back, hopefully we can go over. We're gonna show some work today. So I was gonna show off some of the stuff that we're thinking about doing in Highrise soon related to a group inbox. And there's different things that we've considered, negotiations we're having with like, and how we could engineer this, and some stuff's possible. And some stuff it would take a lot of extra work. Maybe it's not worth it right now. So we've learned some things about kind of what we want to do to get that first version out the door. Let me see if he's coming back in here. Can someone tweet me? Like, am I still online or am I even offline? I think my wife is even watching downstairs. I'm gonna yell at her. Ah,
You
hey,
still
dude.
there?
Yeah, yeah.
The internet at the office just went out.
Ah, okay.
So I don't know. I don't know what happened. Where I
We were talking about. I mean, we were talking about the obvious, easy, and the possible, and
right.
I forget exactly where you were kind of cut off there, but
Yeah, I was just basically saying that I was kind of tying it back to the Apple Remote example you
yeah,
were giving. So I've got one. I just went and found one in another room. So I've got one of these. Is this what you're talking about?
yeah, exactly.
Right. So basically, they actually have fewer things than I thought. So they don't have volume. They basically have the menu button, which is kind of your panic button. Like I don't know where to go. Just I'll hit menu and I'll get back. You've got the play and pause, and then you've got some basic navigation. This for them, they've considered these things to be the obvious requirements. What's easy is like, well, I can't change the volume because this doesn't actually control volume, so I have to do that with my TV thing. But maybe like, I'm not even sure what those things might be, like a buy button, for example. Well, the buy button has been made easy because it's pushed into the interface on your TV screen, and you can navigate with this, but you don't actually have a buy button here, or things like that. Like those things are all possible. There's no keyboard on this, right? So you can search, but you got to search. It's kind of a little bit of a hassle, but you got to do that. They've just decided that certain things are easy, certain things are obvious, and then certain things are possible, like going in and entering your password, which is a real pain in the ass because you've got to hit shift on this little, it all sucks, but like at least you can do it. And you can download the app for your phone, which will actually give you a keyboard to do that with the remote app. So like, anyway, point is that, that I think when you're talking about complexity and simplicity and all these things, like those words actually aren't very good. I'm kind of over those words because they don't provide enough detail, and they don't really get to the heart of the matter, which is what's clear, what's obvious, what's easy, what's possible. It's this mix of things, and that's really what kind of defines whether or not something is sort of easy to use. It's not if it's simple. Simple, yeah. Has everything to do with it.
Yeah, I like this. Do you try to like put this? So this is a really interesting thing. Like, I mean, it's interesting.
We bring this up all the time when we're building stuff.
I like this a lot. Like I mean, instinctually, I think I do some of this. I mean, we prioritize, like, hey, this isn't something that we feel is this isn't one of those things that's like falls into that people are going to do this 80% of the time. So it doesn't need to be the best, most, like you're saying, the buy button, like, or even the password button. You only do it once. So it's not like we have to devote the whole remote to this function. But that's interesting. It's interesting to really think about it in those buckets, to kind of like draw those circles around the things that you're considering. I like that a lot. I like that framework a lot.
We've been doing that. We've been doing that a lot lately. So when we're kind of trying to figure out, like, I'm actually posting this right now to Medium so people can read this if they want. Anyway, so if you we're looking at a variety of things all the time, right? We're looking at a screen. There's a bunch of stuff on the screen. One of the really interesting things we just did this with was in Basecamp 3. Actually, I'll show you. Let me just share my screen. I'm going to show people Basecamp 3 for the first time here, but let me find something slightly innocuous. Let's see if I can find. I'll jump in here actually, and let me go over here, and let me go over here, and actually let me find some. Just go ahead and pick up where I left off for just a second, so I can find something interesting to share. I don't know if there's any thoughts you have about this.
No, it's good. The other.
Actually, here, I know what I'll share.
Yeah.
I'll share our project.
Sure.
So let me go into, let me get this going here. I can share my screen, just a second. Entire screen, share. You see it?
Yep.
Okay. So this is what Basecamp 3 kind of looks like. There's some variations, etc. But this is the project that Nathan and I are working on with Work in Progress, which is what the show is about. So Basecamp 3 has a variety of tools. I'm just showing you 4 of the tools here, but there's actually 6 tools. that every project comes with. This is a tool called Automatic Questions, and every day we've set up a Basecamp to ask both of us a question, which is, what topic do you want to talk about today? So Basecamp goes out, asks both of us, either through a push notification on our phone or in the app or via email, depending on we have stuff set up. What do you want to talk about today? And we log some notes about those things. So Basecamp's going out and asking us this question. We're putting stuff back and it's flowing right into Basecamp. And then we can have threaded discussions about these topics as well. But here's what I want to get to about obvious, easy, and possible. So these are 4 of the tools. Now, when you go into a tool, you've got the mini tools at the top, actually. So I can jump between the schedule, the Q&A, message board, etc. Campfire, which is the real-time chat, can move between all these things, okay? But what's interesting, we talked about this, we debated this quite a bit, which was that, are these necessary? Because I can just go back to the main project and move between things, right? So I can go from message board back to the main project, right to questions and answers, right back to the main project, right to the chat room, right back to the main project really quickly, right? By the way, I can't see your face, so are we still broadcasting? We still there? Okay, yeah. Cool. We debated this, like, should we have these little mini things up here? And we decided that being able to move between parts of a project should be obvious. If we just wanted to make it easy, we could say you can go back to the main project screen and bounce. But we're saying, no, it should actually be obvious, partially because if someone sends me a link to this thing right here, and I land on it, and I don't have these other things, like I'm missing a bit of context. And what's really nice about this design is that it gives you a sense of context, where you are, what else is happening. It's a tiny little sliver, but it's just enough to know where you've dropped in and what's around you. And so not only is the navigation side of it should be obvious, and moving between things should be quick and obvious, but actually being dropped into the middle of something, it should be obvious where you've been dropped. And so we decided, and of course this is all up for debate, right? But we decided that those experiences should be obvious. And so that's sort of a good example, I think, of that. So had it just been easy, we could have just said you got to go back. So I mean, I'll even show you in the inspector, right? Like let's just delete that for a second. Boom. So this would have been easy, right? Can go back, can jump in. They're back now, of course. The inspector doesn't remember that, but obvious was the important thing. Now possible, I'm not even sure what the version of possible could have been here, but for us it wasn't even a decision about possible. It was more like, should it be obvious or should it just be easy? So anyway, that's a quick example of that. And while we're at it, here's some of our stats from SoundCloud, which we're feeling good about.
Growing. That's right.
We're growing. Things are happening here. So anyway, that's a quick peek at BC3. Now I got to figure out how to stop sharing this. Stop. Okay, there we go. But anyway, I hope that sort of illustrated at some level, a very basic level, like the difference between possible and easy in that context.
Yeah, we've actually just to show our own stuff too. Like there was a similar debate. That's interesting. You brought up that example. Like I feel like there's I'll go ahead and share my screen too. I'll get in on this. Here we go. Which do you share your entire screen or do you share?
Yeah, just do the entire screen. I always find it just works better. And I just go full width on my browser. Whoa, got crazy. So yeah, switch.
All right. I'll switch. Okay, that didn't. There we go. Do you see it now?
Not yet. Yep, now I do.
So we were debating. So this is what we're doing. These are just wireframes, but this is the stuff that we are working on right now towards this like group inbox solution. We want to provide a way for people to basically, we were doing too much in the activity stream. Like people use Highrise as a way to do customer support. Like it's not just all outreach. It's a lot of like a customer emails or a contact emails, and people need to get back to them. Like a really good example was we have a customer, they clean boat toilets. And they use Highrise as this system to basically do customer support, like what boat they need to clean out next. And that's that's just one example of people that need to not just do all this outreach from Highrise, but like reply to stuff. When they get something important, they need to know that they have to get back to this person. And we try to do this from the activity view to kind of flag, hey, this person hasn't been replied to yet. But we were doing too much. The activity stream, like we found it was just doing too many jobs. We were just kind of trying to shove a little bit too much stuff into one thing. And like we thought, like, we need to make a nice focused view of who basically your clients are that need to get contacted back, what contacts need to be contacted back. So you could run something like your entire help desk now out of Highrise. So this is one example. We were fooling with, we were debating, we were in this debate between doing, what's more important, for version 1. We want to obviously do kind of the simplest thing for version 1. So this is where we were debating a little bit. We've got this idea of like, should it be bulk actions? Like you can't actually delete one of these, each of these rows represents an individual email that you want to reply to. And there's no way to delete a single one of these rows unless you either click into it, read the detail of it and delete it, or you click this checkbox here on the left and then select from a menu at the top. And then we were debating between that or doing something more like this. This is a different take on this, in which the actions now are per row. There is no bulk action here. There are no checkboxes to select here on the left. It's a trash can or just a check mark to kind of mark this thing as done. And this was what's kind of interesting about this one was, like, this was also kind of an engineering negotiation. Can we, we decided bulk was the way to go, except bulk will take us longer to get there. There's a lot more JavaScript and a lot more stuff that we have to run on the back end to get kind of the bulk actions working right. So we decided for the version 1, we're going to just kind of go with this approach and just go with these action menus per row on the right. But we got into an interesting debate, kind of maybe similar to what your debate was. This is just kind of like an animated GIF of kind of like these action menus going on. But we were debating, like I was debating, like, should we hide these action menus? Like you're saying, like, you guys could have hidden those little tiny cards at the top. And we were debating about, should these things be hidden on hover? But it would make it less obvious. And another thing, and this was something our lead designer was really pushing, and I agree with her now, but it's like, if we had hidden them, there's no gain. Like, we wouldn't have like hidden them and obviously obtained more space. We would have kept the space still probably open and just kind of like hidden them and shown them when you hover over these rows. So we weren't really gaining much except for kind of taking out a little bit of visual noise on each of these rows. But then it makes it less obvious on how to like delete an email and remove something from the inbox, which are like these super important things we want people to doing like a lot of the time. Like there should be no question on how to get something out of this inbox as fast as possible. And so those are some of the design decisions we made on this that seem a little bit similar to kind of what you guys were going on, thinking about those mini cards.
And I can even get more specific. We in Basecamp today, in what we call BCX, which is the current version of Basecamp that's out today. In the message, we have a discussion section where you can have traditional sort of threaded discussions. We had debated quite a bit about. So we wanted people to be able to customers were like, I want to be able to archive this. I want to be able to archive this if it's over. Like, I just want it out of the way. I don't want to delete it. I just want it out of the way. So we go, okay, that makes sense. So we did a few designs. One was like a bulk design where you checked a box, and like you could check multiple things and hit an archive thing. When you checked a box, you'd get an archive link. But we had no other actions really. So it was like, just to check a box to get another action to be able to do one thing seemed a little weird. And then we're like, well, why don't we just put an archive link next to everything? And I'm actually going to go see. I'm not even entirely sure what it looks like today. But I believe what we did was, it's been a while since I've looked at this. Let me just take a quick look. I believe we have the archive link displayed at the right of every, let me just see. Yep, so we have an archive button all the way on the right on every single message. We basically said, it was important for that to be obvious because it was a common action. Read it, done, out of the way. But, the designer in us was originally like, well, it's kind of ugly and there's an extra thing and it makes it more complicated. but actually it doesn't make it more complicated. It makes it clearer. It makes it more obvious because it's a fundamental thing that you're doing. So in your case, if you guys are often doing that, often deleting things, often checking things off, of course you want to make that obvious, and it doesn't make it cluttered by making it obvious. It makes it clear by making it obvious. Even though there's more elements on the screen now. It's not about the number of elements on the screen. It's not about, some people say it's noisy. It doesn't matter if it's noisy. If it's like, noisy is not an attribute that's good nor bad. It's just like, if it needs to be there because you're doing it all the time, it should be there. Yeah, technically it's noisier because there's more stuff, but like, so what? That's not really the dimension where we're valuing things on. Anyway, so it's a really fun thing to look at something and go, just need to be obvious, easier possible, and take it that way. I found that to be just it's a great method of negotiation as well when you're talking to people, because it's not about like, do we need it or do we not? Because in many cases, like somehow you need to be able to do this. The question is, how elevated should it be? And then you get in this discussion, you can say, well, how about we just make it possible? Now we have like language to discuss this.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
Different set of words to use.
Cool.
So I'd recommend playing with those words a bit more. Let's see. We've got what, a couple minutes to go?
Yeah.
Okay, because I know we got started a little bit late. Anything else to catch up on, or?
Nothing at the top of my list. I mean, showing you this inbox, like, I mean, this is still something that we, I still, just from, it makes it a little different now that we're doing like these obvious actions per row. It makes it a little bit different from like a Gmail inbox. And like we also, there's something else that if you remember the screenshot, like we're giving it more room to kind of get a little bit more context. Like, I don't know if if you use Gmail, like that Gmail inbox, it's like usually you get a subject line and you just get a little bit of tiny text that's in the message. And it's really not a lot of context to see kind of what is actually in the message. Here we're devoting like a whole line to kind of what is that first line in the message. And I'm hoping it's enough, but I feel like I feel like with Gmail, even I never really know what the message is about, like when I'm looking at a row in Gmail. And I'm hoping this kind of provides just a little bit more, that you don't feel like you always have to click through. You can make some faster decisions in the inbox to be like, okay, yeah, I can check this off as done without having to click into it. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure we're doing enough. And I'm also not sure we're doing enough to kind of differentiate it from just like a Gmail inbox. Maybe we are, but I don't know, that's kind of a challenge that I've got. Maybe we probably won't know until we just kind of start using it and get it out there.
Yeah, cool. I think those are really good things, and they're small little. Look, we touched on a couple small things, but really important things. Which is like, it's funny how a little small box, which is maybe like, 64 by 64 pixels or something, like, can have a huge impact. Because if you don't have that visible and someone needs to get to it all the time, the alternative was like check a box, then display some other stuff. So it's like 3 clicks versus 1. But even beyond that, forget just even the number of clicks. It's just about like, do I even know this is possible at all? And when you surface that, it's like it actually opens up the possibilities, because now people know they could do something they couldn't do before, versus having to go find it and dig for it. So anyway, good little chat about that topic.
Cool. All right, man. So 3 o'clock tomorrow work for you?
I'm almost positive it does. Let me just confirm. Yes, sir. It does.
All right. Cool.
Cool.
Thank you, everyone. We hopefully will get the blabs that we've done the past couple days on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Is that possible? I mean, is it insane? Do we need to get like Sean involved in this?
No. The problem was, the problem was that I had to, so it asked for my Yahoo my Google credentials to put it in the right place. The problem was I tried it and I can't put it in that channel. Like it got complicated, and then I got sucked into something else, and I just like haven't gotten back to it.
Okay.
But they exist as YouTube videos. We just have to like suck them in the right place.
Okay.
So I'm just a little bit. We'll get them in. I'm just a little bit backed up on some other things to figure it out.
Cool. Okay.
We'll do it.
Awesome. So yeah, everybody, please subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Please follow us on YouTube. We're up about 700 now. We got
a little over 700, and we have an iTunes podcast now, and I've been sharing that link around. So if you guys are interested in the audio, an iTunes podcast is available for our show as well.
And you'll enjoy listening to my dead silence while my internet was out.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to entertain them.
Okay, good. Cool. All right, man. I'll see you later.
All right, dude. Okay. Bye. Thanks, everybody.